And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We've got that dang postal form 6387 we're having issues with. And as I told you, I would do the presentment again as soon as I got the go-ahead. And I got the go-ahead yesterday. So I went ahead, or not yesterday, the day before, I think. And so I finally got down there today to make the second presentment. Went better, but we still ended up with a crossroads. So basically what I'm doing tonight is I'm starting a series of videos to go through certain information to explain that very form. And so the first thing I'm going to start out with is the very issue of going to the post office, the very term office itself. And this is in with the intent to help clarify that the things that I'm doing and the issues that I'm having with the Postal Service is because I have yet to find anybody who knows anything about this form, let alone anybody that really comprehends it. I did find out, get a hold of, like I said, today we got close to success. The guy didn't fully comprehend it, but he was willing to go forward with what I was trying to help him comprehend. Then when I got back and I got run around on the phone calling the service center, I finally got a hold of a gal that was pretty well competent, is what I'm going to say. That's one of the terms we're going to look at. And so I had a nice discussion with her, and I finally got the addresses with the zip code extensions and everything, and the specific people to address in regards to the situation, because I've already addressed the Board of Governors in electronic email. And this is where an issue comes up where I've spoke on this before as it relates to the digital dollar. Everybody's got this fear that they're going to this digital dollar and that they won't have any way to have any kind of paper currency, and that's false. You have to comprehend the terms of what's being used as negotiable instruments. It's another term we're going to go over. And this is all in relation to all the research I've been doing for the last 7 years in regards to the financial index that I got and the case that I went through as it relates to the administrative courts who operate in probate. And this is in violation, by reason and logic, of the very decisions made in Scott versus McNeil, wherein the court of probate has no jurisdiction over the estate of a person who is in fact alive. Now, that alone is reason and logic, that if you see a living man in front of you and you ask him if he's Keith Orland Little, the fact that he answers to that doesn't equate to that he is the estate. It equates to the fact that he is the living soul, therefore has a living will inherently, and nothing else need to be discussed further as it relates to the legal fiction and competency. So again, my intent is merely, as I expressed to Simone and many others along this journey, simply a piece of accord in accommodation of public venues for the private people. That's it. And that's already been had. That's been done through the international treaties. It's already been set. It is as set. And again, people have asked me, particularly here recently, what are the steps in doing this? I'm going to tell you again, The first step is to unlearn everything you've learned and relearn it again. This is the Concise English Handbook. I use Hans B. Guth, 4th edition, and a concise college composition handbook. Then I urge you to start going through those scriptures and realize that's key. That is a key. Those scriptures that are enumerated. Isaiah 22:22. The key of the house of David I will lay upon his shoulder, and he will close and no one shall shut, and he will shut and no one shall open. It's telling you, you have the authority to open that door to your office. So let's start. I believe the link is down there for anybody that wants to join. Yes, it is pinned there, and it is pinned there. And I want to welcome everybody, Norman Longstaff, Jenny V. I don't see anybody else, so if you're watching, my apologies. Also, if you're on Facebook, I oftentimes forget to mention, if you want to join the chat or the StreamYard, you really have to come over here because your chat's over there. I don't post the links and stuff over there. It's too much for me to handle as a one-man band. So you need to come over to YouTube channel Hecklebus and hit the like, share, and subscribe as a reminder. And if you're on Hecklebus, get over to El Perro and do the same. And if you're going to help out with any kind of love sharing, do it through one of the PayPal links in the details section below. The top one is if you have a PayPal account, and if not, use the one on the bottom. If there's an issue with that, I am working on getting a Cash App. But again, folks, for me, it's not about the numbers or the money. It's about the truth. So greetings, Joyce. Love you, girl. And let's get into it. And you guys know me. I always like to start out with etymology type things. And so we're going to look at the term office as it's created. Of would be the prefix. OF is a prefix. And the definitive term used in the word itself as a word is FIC here, but in its origin is including of an E, and that's why we include the E today in English as an adoption of this form rather than what's stated here. Remember, English is a colorful language, adoption, many different forms. Adjectival word-forming element. So, when you have this, which means to make, which means to set, which means to put, which means making or doing, creating, making, ye are creators. Image and likeness, the face, the face. It's the same thing. Okay? Of face, of face. About face, of face. Of face is the spiritual merit. About face is just like at law versus in law. In law is the spiritual merits or the credence. At law is not in credence. It's outside of credence. Cannot be there. Does that make sense? I hope so. It's very clear. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. And we're going to share this tab instead. And this is Title 39 of the U.S. Code, Section 205, as it relates to obligations. 39 U.S. Code is the Postal Service. That means an obligation of the Postal Service under the United States. United States Postal Service. The Postal Service is authorized to borrow money. Are they a lender or a borrower? And to issue is sue. That's two words when you separate them. And when you pronounce them, it is sue. So are you suable? Is it issuable? Is suable. And sell. Sell such obligations as it deems or as it determines necessary to carry out the purposes of this title. The purposes are of their obligation. Other than any of the purposes for which the corresponding authority is available to the Postal Service under Section 2011. Relationship between the Treasury and the Postal Service, 2006. Public debt character of the obligations of the Postal Service, 2007. Audit and expenditures, 2008. And 2009 goes to the annual budget. 2 Kings 10:14. That is the annual salary or budget or income, whatever you want to think of it in the financial terms, the value of King Solomon for 1 year. And it's 606 talents of gold. The number of the beast. The Postal Service shall cause to be prepared annually a budget program, which shall be submitted to the Office of Management and Budget under such rules and regulations as the President may establish. The President is the military commander-in-chief. Let me see here. There's a nice amount. $3 billion, $10 billion, $12 billion, $15 billion. They got a lot of billions, don't they? What's the Postal Service doing with all this money? Are they a banking institution? Are they a financial institution? Okay. So let's go to the next one. And before I do so, I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're on Hecklebus, get over to El Perro and do so. And if you're on El Perro, get over to Hecklebus, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. The link is pinned in case anybody wants to come share the panel with me. Any questions, comments, concerns, and stuff are appreciated. What we're looking at here is a definition of fund. Fund means the Postal Service Fund, not the United States Fund. The United States is funded by who? Federal Reserve, a private central banking system. The Postal Service is its own banking system. It provides stamps instead of Federal Reserve notes. The Postal Service may pledge the assets of the Postal Service which happens to be a real estate investment trust through the Postal Realty Inc. I've said this many times. I've shown the documentation many times. And pledge and use its revenues. Every number on that address, every different address has a different number, and every number is a revenue. And receipts for the payment of the principal of or interest on obligations issued by the Postal Service under this section. That Postal Service Form 6387 is an obligation provided as an offer to the public as an order stated directly on it, so that you could draw on it your draft of information with your special drawing rights, because you're that special. You're a species, and you get to give specifics. You get to direct things in the specific ways. For the purchase of or redemption thereof, for the purchase or redemption thereof, and on that Postal Service Form 6387, there is a purchase price of $1.10 for a domestic issue, Postal Service issue, as a Postal Service money order, and it's known as it's known under the disbursement postal money order. Purchase is the $1.10, and I state the redemption by giving a directive for full acquittance and discharge of their confusion. And for other purposes incidental thereto. The purpose incidental thereto is for a variance in categorical predetermined classifications that are fundamentally different in nature. My language is specific. If you need to rehear it, stop it, replay it, watch it again, whatever you need to do. Including creation of reserve, sinking, and other funds, which may be similarly pledged and used. Which may be similarly pledged and used. To such extent and in such manner as it deems necessary or desirable. So, for the Postal Service to stay in honor, there are certain things that I can put on there as a directive, as long as I know that the written word of the law, the letter of the law, is being followed. And that is my intent, again, in these videos, just to show that the letter of the law is supposed to be followed, and the Postal Service is not allowing for the following of that letter of the law, because I haven't found anybody that comprehends it yet. So we're going to go by the letter of the law. To such extent as the Postal Service is authorized. So if the Postal Service is authorized, who authorized them? That would be the one that granted them the authorization, and therefore there is a grantee, and they must be the trustee as they are authorized. That's a contractual basis that exists in trust. That's how contracts are made, in privity. But when things go out in the public, everybody thinks of it as a public contract. No, that's not the public contract. The public contract still maintains privity because it's relative to the trust, which is private. If you don't have that private trust expressed, probably not going to have too much fun doing this. Is authorized to enter into binding covenants. A man is bound by his words, and therefore when the Postal Service, as the registered agent, offered up a trademark document by the one that granted the use of that document, proprietary product for the service and use of through the Postal Service as the registered agent, that's an offer to the public as a, what is it, a negotiable instrument, because there are terms and conditions that you can put on there to negotiate the direction of the path, the routing. It's that simple. And so once they offered it to me, it's under UCC 3-102 or something like that. I can't remember the specific one, but or particular one. But it's an offer and acceptance in formation of contract. But it explicitly expresses the trust. The registered agent on that form is clearly marked as United States Postal Service, and the trademark holder is the post office, the creator of that instrument. So when they offered it to me and I drew on it by my special ritual of making right that which ought be right, coming with equity so I can get equity, bringing the truth so I can have truth, all I can do is correct the elements on the document. And again, it's not hard to correct them because all I got to do is put my data elements on there. The problem is the comprehension of other people and the letter of the law. So again, binding covenants with the holders of such obligations. So the post office is the trademark holder who created the documents, and the post office is the one that holds them, because you can walk your happy ass down there and ask them for one, and they'll say, sure, let me go get one. Of such obligation. It's an obligation. And with the trustee. That's who the obligation is with. It's not with me. It's with the trustee in the post office. The letter of the law right here for you, folks. If any, under any agreement entered into in connection with the issuance thereof, with respect to the establishment of reserve, sinking, and other funds, application and use of revenues and receipts of the Postal Service, stipulations concerning the subsequent issuance of obligations or the execution of leases or lease purchases relating to the properties of the Postal Service Fund or Postal Service, and such other matters as the Postal Service deems necessary or desirable to enhance the marketability of such obligations. It is a purchase order, and you are purchasing a lease obligation on a real estate investment trust for the revenue by use of the address. And you put the agent name up there as the first name, last name. And then you use the bonding number with the street name security, which was created by the municipality in their office. That's where the original contract lies. And you claim to be a resident. And that's where you lie. You claim to be a United States citizen. You lie. Those are impossibilities unless specific, particular things are, in fact, certified and valid under oath and or licensing. Otherwise, you just operate in trust, and you are the benefactor by placing the facts on the instrument that you get to beneficially use in private as a contract form, which gives equal consideration and benefit. What is that term, consideration, folks? What is that consideration for those such obligations? CON, with. SIDE, a place. Ration, rations, military rations, depending on your merits or demerits. Rate. Remember that term, rate. Let's look at the next one. The Postal Service Fund. And let me check the room, make sure we're doing okay. Everybody, please be reminded to hit that like, share, and subscribe button no matter what channel you're on. Greetings, Moose, Harry Nut, Focus, Gen V again, La India Maria. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Please be sure to hit them buttons again. Let's see. Yeah, you see, and that's why I say these people don't know the first thing about their own forms, and they're trying to placate they know about the rest of the law. You can't even tell me about your own forms. So don't try to tell me I got to wear a mask. Well, we're getting somewhere, Harry. We're getting somewhere. That's why I'm going through this. It's just, like I said, you got to take your time, have patience, and know that you're the one that's going to have to teach them. And that's why you have to do your research. Don't believe me. Don't believe your neighbor. Don't believe the government. And for crying fucking out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. And that's why I'm doing this. The research doesn't just take looking at the information. It takes action required. So just like riding a bike, so you can get better and better at it. And that's all I'm doing. And I'm showing you, I'm getting better and better at it. They've got a bench warrant out for me. I've got fines, fees, and penalties. They say I never paid. There's no bench warrants out on those. What about the demand that I give them a drug eval and submit myself to a drug center and give a DNA sample? I've done none of that. They know exactly where I'm at. I'm in communication with their bosses. Administrative law judges through electronic emails. Social Security Commissioner, IRS Commissioner. Louis DeJoy, Pentagon. Couple people at the Pentagon. Director General at the International Bureau. Secret Service. FBI. FAA. I don't care. Who are they? I'm supposed to communicate with them, but in doing so, I'm supposed to do so peacefully. And that's all I'm trying to learn and do. And that's every step I do. I try to make sure that I'm doing it with peace of mind and peace of heart. So let's get down to the word. Leaves all the emotions out. So let's take a look at this. Postal Service Fund. There is established in the Treasury of the United States a revolving fund to be called this Postal Service Fund. Does that sound like the same thing as circulating? You know, as in circulation. And it's established in the Treasury of the United States. So there is an interest on the obligation in the United States. Okay? Without fiscal year limitation. That's the budget. Competitive Products Funds. The competitive products funds are the securities instruments that you can negotiate. Every last one of them, you can negotiate them. It's an offer to the public. If it wasn't, they wouldn't let you have them. That employment application, that's a securities instrument. You're going to give them security information. Why? Just deal with the customs broker and be a customer so you can customize the information to your own use and benefit with equal consideration, with equal side rations, side by side, one for one, dollar for dollar, asset for asset. If you give the Postal Service or any other banking institution an asset, they cannot use it. The only thing they can do is hold it. And then upon closing of the account, where all internal accounts are settled and balanced, cleared to zero, then they can give any remainder assets back, so long as you're not insolvent. In other words, your liabilities are covered by your credit. There is no debit. They're operating everything in debit. Okay? So let's take a look, see if there's anything else here. I don't think I remember anything else. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on these, but I'm not going to be chintzy about it either. 48 CFR, which is Federal Acquisitions Regulations. Contract terms, conditions required to implement statutes, executive orders. That contract term and condition is open for interpretation and drawing on it correct draft terms. I did so in credit. It has to do with the merits and demerits. 2152.370, use of the matrix as it refers to Federal Acquisitions Regulations, Office of Personnel Management, Federal Employees Group, Life Insurance, Federal Acquisition Regulation, Subchapter H, clauses and forms, pre-contract provisions and contract clauses. Applicable clauses and all that. Got you the authorities and everything. Oops, I'm not sharing this tab, am I? My apologies. Federal Acquisition Regulations, use of the matrix, 48 CFR 2152.37. As it relates to Office of Personnel Management. Personnel Management is a departmental regulation applicable to the Department of Defense. Federal Employees Group, Life Insurance Federal Acquisition Regulations, pre-contract provisions and contract clauses as it relates to what I said earlier, variants for categorical pre-classifications, predetermined classifications for fundamental differences in nature. You are not the man. The man is merely the record, which contains the names that are enumerated. You are not born with an enumeration. Look on yourself. All 2,000 parts. There is not a number there unless somebody else put it there afterwards. The matrix in this section lists the FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulations, contract requirements, and live fire clauses to be used with the FEGLI. That's life insurance. Group life insurance federal. It's your federal employee group life insurance. Confidentiality of records. Authorization and consent. Notice and assistance regarding patent copyright infringement. Insurance liability to third person. Now, if the third person is the total fiction, you can ask any English major, a third person is known as an abstract noun, which means total fiction. So if the liability is to the third person, then where is the liability? It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not in reality. Interest. Again, this stuff is already stated. Why does it need to be restated? It was stated in the code. Interest on the obligation and principal of the interest on the obligation. I'm the principal of the United States who holds the obligation on the Postal Service form in a contract obligation with the Treasury, which is supported by the real estate investment trust, not gold and silver. And those stamps are internal monetary items, products. They are nothing more than a fucking baseball card. Excuse my language. You can make your own stamps. Affirmative action compliance. Previous contracts and compliance reports. The Postal Service doesn't have any current cases that they've been named in for, I think, over a year now. I don't want to ruin that record. I just want compliance. Audit and records negotiation. If the government be willing to accept alternate proposals, the contracting officer shall alter the basic clause to add a paragraph C9 substantially the same as alternate 2. Except as provided in paragraph B2 of this section, the contracting officer shall insert the clause 52.212-2. Contract terms and conditions required to implement statutes, executive orders, commercial items, commercial products. Would you like to read it? (52.212-5) Contract terms and conditions required to implement statutes or executive orders, commercial products, commercial services. That's a commercial product because it's got commercial identifiers on it known as a $ and price quotes for domestic money order, rural money order, neither one of them being the same, and therefore there is a conversion in the language. There's also conversion in the instrument that I'm allowed to make by giving cash, known as coin, and that leaves an unpaid balance of money or its equivalent. Its equivalent, I also stated on that instrument as in credit. Okay. Audit and records negotiations under 10 USC 3841, 41 USC 4706, and audit requirements in the OMB Uniform Guidance at 2 CFR Part 200, Subpart F. In solicitations and contracts, except those for acquisitions not exceeding the simplified acquisition threshold. I'm sure $1.10 for $98.91 in credit does not exceed any such acquisition threshold. The acquisition of utility services at rates with side rates. What are side rates? Is that like a side bet? Does it go to a different set of odds? Not exceeding those established to apply uniformly to the general public. Acquisition of utility service at rates not exceeding those established to apply uniformly to the general public. Apply uniformly. I'm not in your uniform. I'm not in the military. It does not apply to me. The record imports that I'm a military officer of some sort, which is in error. The selective service number will show that I have no authority to place a liability on a public record that does not exist and then be charged with such liability in third person. This is the creation of an impossibility by the letter of the law, plus any applicable reasonable connection, charge, or the acquisition of commercial products or commercial services exempted under 15.403. The reasonable connection is the competency to understand the words. It is only in the military that you get on a field and holler out, "Charge!" It is only when you charge another man that you create a debt. Owe no man anything but to love one another. Okay, let's look at the next one. (39 CFR) again. Postal Service 761.8. Servicing the registered agent as the processor of service. The diplomatic channel of notice. Notice. Book entry. Postal Service securities. Since the Postal Service form is offered by the Postal Service, it is a Postal Service security. Payment of interest, payment at maturity, or upon call. When I call out a name, that is not a legal fiction. It is not a comment, written or spoken. It's a calling out to somebody by name. And it's not making any accusations or anything. But when you put a piece of paper as set, put, to put, remember face, when you put something in their service system, it's an entry into their books. Okay? That definitive paper is going to get converted into an electronic form. When you give them that postal, or when you give them that coinage, they have to put it in they have to deposit it. They have to deposition it. Okay? It's no longer in my possession. It's in theirs, and they cannot spend it. They cannot use it. They're only supposed to hold it. They already have their own investment. This is the equal side rate to their real estate investment. Okay? That instrument is a negotiable instrument from the Postal Service for them to enter into their books a directive to extend credit in circulation in their system, the electronic system. And that is for payment of interest. I am the principal of the interest on the obligation, and the payment is to the interest, or payment of the interest. That's the United States, not me. I don't want you to pay me. I want you to pay the United States in their interest so that it's not placed as a debit. So when I went down to the post office today and I spoke to the guy down there, awesome guy. He was taking it in. He was wanting to comprehend it, though he didn't fully comprehend it. He took it step by step, and we tried to enter in the number that I gave him. And when he told me that they cannot accept anything but cash or debit, cash or debit, that means I have to make a call upon the payment at maturity of the United States. Are they going to stand up like a man and take care of it? Or are they going to act immature like a child and not listen to my call and my beckon and my herald that, hey, there's something wrong with your records? That, hey, there's something wrong with the entry in those books. It doesn't belong there. You're not supposed to take that coin and enter it into your books as though it's your asset. You're only supposed to hold it. And in holding so, it creates a fidelity agreement that if the credits don't go through and circulate back to you, then I've created something that is not good. Interest becoming due on book entry Postal Service securities shall be charged in the Postal Service fund on the interest due date and readmitted or credited or remitted or credited in accordance with the depositor's instruction. I don't care who's telling you what. The letter of the law right here says that the depositor gives the instruction. Why are you going to an attorney? Why are you going to an attorney? Such security shall be redeemed and charged in the Postal Service fund on the date of maturity. So as I create that instrument, that is a security instrument. Now they get to sell it. That's where they're supposed to get that credit from. Not from my assets. They're supposed to hold on to my assets so that when that instrument's out there, it's making them money. It's creating more credit. It's giving them credence for being the one that posed it as a secure instrument. So then if I close my account, they have to give me my asset backs. And that means they have to do a put call, means they have to call it back. Early if it may be, but only because they need to pull out of it to make sure that the balance of the records are right. Because if it goes above zero and I'm held liable, then they have to take some of those assets. Call or advance refunding. Advance refunding. So I funded it, and they're trying to tell me I have to fund it again. No. If you understand the circulation, it's supposed to refund. And the redemption proceeds, principal and interest shall be disposed, again, disposed, dispositioned, meaning depositioned, meaning deposited again somewhere else, shall be disposed of the principal in accordance with the depositor's instructions. Okay, I want to thank everybody. It's been 50 minutes. And like I said, I'm going to do a series of videos. So remember what we've gone through so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 links. And again, if you need to watch it again, watch it and watch it and watch it. Take your notes. I urge you. Do not believe me. Do not believe the government. Do not believe your neighbor. And don't, for crying out loud, believe your mother. Do your research so you know. Again, it starts with a concise English handbook, a college composition handbook, and the 1611 version, or the 1611 print of the King James Version of the Bible, which is known as the law of the land. So thank you. God bless. You know I love you, but I don't give a fuck whether you love me back. Y'all have a good night, and I'll be back again tomorrow night with the second part. And like I said, I'm going to keep doing this. There's going to be a few. I'm going to keep looking things up and adding the pertinent information that I believe is going to show you step by step, word by word, exactly what I mean. It is the letter of the law as it's written. All you have to do is, just like I'm doing, breaking down those terms and conditions to find out what they really mean so that you can put those terms into the negotiations so they're not presumed and causing havoc and wrecks. So, God bless. Have a good night.